What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of L2P with Redonkulous Gaming. You've got Redonk, and before we get into today's fighter, make sure you take a second, hit that subscribe button so we can keep making cool videos like this. So without further ado, we're going to get into Darkrai today, one of the legendary Pokemon, and now one of the primo technical fighters within Pokken Tournament DX for Nintendo Switch. So getting into a quick breakdown, Darkrai has a health pool of 540 hit points, and he is a technical playstyle. Elements do have nothing to do with anything within this fighting arena game, so keep that in mind. He is a technical playstyle and very much a specialist, so someone you're going to have to practice with a whole lot to get really halfway decent before you really start to notice some kind of results. So as always, treat this as a 101 guide, kind of an overview to just kind of get you started. So let's talk a little bit about Darkrai and dual phase versus field phase. So overall, Darkrai really is a complete fighter. He can be just as good from a distance as he can from mid-range, as he can up close and personal in melee, but really requires control and execution to master. So he is the definition of a technical fighter. There's a lot to consider when you're using him, and even more required than really any other fighter that we've covered to this point. His special attacks are used to create phantoms or copies of himself that can be detonated when your opponent gets too close. He can also create rifts or tears in the environment that can be detonated by using the same mechanic. So in field phase, utilize your lateral movement and the Y button to create phantoms and get used to mastering your phantom count. So what the heck is your phantom count? Now, when you're playing Darkrai, you'll notice that every single time you either create a phantom of yourself or create a rift, you will have a little yellow orb that starts to glow within the body of Darkrai. That orb count caps out at 4. So that is your phantom count. 1 through 4 are the active number of phantoms that you can have at any time, and you can utilize and leverage your phantoms by holding the A button. And what that does is heal Darkrai based on how many phantoms you have active at any given time. So, not to confuse the actual copies of Darkrai, those phantoms, with your actual phantom count. The phantom count, for clarification, are the yellow glowy orbs inside of Darkrai's body. Sometimes they're a little orangey, depending on the phase that you're in. And the actual phantoms are the copies of Darkrai that you leave behind as he moves around the arena. Now, something to keep in mind is that while Darkrai is viable within field phase, blasting orbs at the opponent, dodging around, creating copies of itself, creating tears, and detonating, you ultimately want to get into dual phase so that you can leverage combos and better set up your nightmare phase. So this is something that is very much unique to Darkrai. Nightmare phase is something that is completely separate of synergy phase. So nightmare phase actually allows you to unlock special attacks that you do not have access to when you are just in your normal phase and you have not activated it. Now, how you activate Nightmare Phase is by pressing forward and A together. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a slight little rift, a little portal right above Darkrai's head, and it's going to shoot it down at a 45-degree angle at your opponent. If that attack lands, it'll automatically shift you into Nightmare Phase. And what that'll do is give you access to unique attacks that you did not have before. Specifically, the up A command, which will actually create a little shadowy vortex and make Darkrai shoot forward at your opponent, kind of like a torpedo. And down A, which is a very powerful grab, the spell is actually called Dream Eater, that will just obliterate your opponents if you're able to do it. Now, keep in mind, it is still a grab attack, so it can be easily countered, so you're going to need to set it up. Now, some of the things just to make note. How do you create phantoms? You hold the Y button. You can hold a direction and Y, but ultimately, if you hold Y, it'll leave behind a phantom. Any of your X attacks are going to create rifts, so forward X, back X, you name it. Now, when you detonate your rifts and your phantoms, you utilize back A to do so. And something to note is that when you use your X attacks in a direction, that is going to determine which direction those attacks detonate. So the phantoms will actually blow up wherever they are, and the tears or the rifts that you create are going to blow up in a direction that the attack was intended. Holding A at any time, again, is going to consume your phantom count and heal you based on the number of active phantoms that you have. Your jump Y button is going to create a trap, which is really an energy field. And what happens is once your enemy jumps or makes contact with that energy field, they're going to stun themselves. So you can go ahead and set up traps as you play just to try to help you catch your opponent so that you can take advantage and unleash some technical havoc here with Darkrai. Now, if you hit up and Y together, that's going to create a ranged attack that kind of creates shadow claws from behind your opponent, then brings them towards you, and then obviously if you hold that Y button, you'll also leave a phantom copy behind, one that you can detonate as the opponent moves towards you. So either way, the opponent is either going to step into your phantom, or they're going to get hit by the shadow claws. All of those abilities that we just talked about are available outside of your Nightmare phase. You do have access to them when you are in Nightmare phase as well, and yes, they do hit for more damage, so take advantage of that. Your down and A and your up and A are going to be the two attacks that you're going to inherit, and then it'll also unlock some unique combos that are only available to you when you are in Nightmare phase, so keep that in mind. Combos that you can utilize in any phase include X followed by up A, and then forward A as a follow-up, which will put you into Nightmare phase. So the overall goal here is to get into Nightmare phase as quickly as possible so that you can really wreak havoc on your opponent. Another alternative while you are in normal phase is X and A hold, and that's going to be your critical strike, back Y, and then YY. And what that's going to do is obviously critically strike your opponent and then finish them off with a chain of back-to-back punches and then set you up for that forward A again to put you into Nightmare phase. Now, one that will automatically put you into Nightmare phase is up and X, down Y, 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 Y. And that's going to have you land a critical attack, stun your opponent, land 3 punches, and then shift automatically into Nightmare phase, where you can go right into an up and A or down and A attack, which is absolutely devastating and will have your opponent reeling fairly easily. So let's get into Darkrai's synergy phase. Darkrai is by far one of the coolest fighters that you have available to you, and his synergy phase is just as cool. So his overall strength of his synergy phase is nothing short of absolutely redonkulous. This guy just can unleash havoc at will as long as you are setting up your phantoms and your rifts and your traps properly. Now, overall coolness of Darkrai. Again, he's extremely cool. His synergy phase makes him that much cooler. You really do enter into the Shadow Realm, or you feel like it, when you execute his ultimate attack or his finisher, and we just find him to be one of the coolest fighters in the game. Again, very tough to master, but easily one of the coolest fighters in the game, and his finisher is so strong. It is nuts what you can do if you're able to couple that with any of the moves that we've gone over, even simplistic combos just to kind of set it up, or even just executing, a Phantom Explosion or a Rift Explosion prior to unleashing your special ability. So he is just super fun, but very hard to master. Not necessarily to play, but to get to a point where you feel comfortable going into just about any fight, that you know what to do in any situation. And that's because you are somewhat limited when you're not in Nightmare phase, so that's definitely something worth keeping in mind. Now, in terms of the support Pokemon that we recommend, really anyone that can stun your opponent and allow you just to have a free move is great. The combination of Cubone or Diglett is great for this. Cubone, of course, can stun from a distance and pull your enemy back closer if you are a little bit further away. Diglett comes right up underneath your opponent and stuns them in place so that you can just go ahead and execute a critical attack at will or go straight into Nightmare phase. So ultimately, the choice is yours. In terms of cheer, what we recommend is that you take a look at the synergy-focused cheer, but obviously if you are not comfortable right away, go ahead and utilize the standard cheer just until you can get comfortable so that you can time out your synergy phase. But if you're using the combination of Cubone and Diglett, that's 2 support Pokemon that are actually on fast charge time, which actually enables you to focus a little bit more on your synergy gauge. And again, unleashing his ultimate attack is so worth it, and the faster you get there, the better off you're going to be. Now, that's going to wrap up Darkrai. Again, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can always visit us at www.redonkulousgaming.com, and go ahead and be sure to follow our Twitter handle. We are at RedonkGaming. Till next time.